Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger. Up next on the GM, have the Baltimore Ravens been exposed? Let's talk. You see, I asked the question, have the Baltimore Ravens been exposed? Because it's something I've been thinking probably for 3 weeks now. In fact, it's something I was thinking all the way back right before the draft. And my mindset going into the draft, if you guys remember, is that the Baltimore Ravens must do something specific in the draft to compensate for their vulnerability. You see, every season, two teams end up in the Super Bowl, but only one team ends up in victory. You see, you're either going to end up with confetti falling on you or you're going to end up with sad faces. And we understand as Baltimore Ravens fans that we ended up with sad faces, right? And a lot of us had a tough time, to be honest. We had a tough time getting over what we saw in that AFC championship. And so we had hope that when we entered into the 2024 free agency market, that we would be able to pull out a couple of major pieces as it pertains to what we needed on this roster. A lot of us hoped that we would pull out a number one type wide receiver. Some of us hoped that we would add to this offensive line. Some of us hoped that we would add to the pass rush. And no matter what we did or didn't do in free agency, when we ended up in the draft or heading into the draft, we had one thing that we could have understood is that the Baltimore Ravens were vulnerable at offensive line. We have some other vulnerabilities, which I'll talk about next week, but we were vulnerable in the or at the offensive line. See, what we understood going into the draft was that we would have a brand new left guard, we would have a brand new right guard, and we would have a brand new right tackle. That's what we understood. And the narrative was that, oh, we're on a youth movement. We want to get more athletic to fit Todd Monken's system, so on and so forth. And at that time, we understood that Voorhees was a hopeful. We hoped that he would be able to take that left guard position. We understood that he had killed it at the combine with the most reps on the bench press with a torn ACL, and all of that stuff sounded good, but on the field, there was nothing proven at the NFL level. We understood that Daniel Falele would get a shot at right tackle, and and now we see that he's gotten a shot at right guard. We understood that uh, Jones, I think it's Josh Jones, was brought in to compete at right tackle, and now he's more of a primary left tackle backup, right? And going into the draft, man, we had some hope that we would pull out a couple of big time offensive linemen in this historic offensive lineman draft per EDC. You see, it was EDC that identified and notified the fan base that this was a historic draft at offensive line. So we go into that draft, and we went cornerback in the first round. We did grab Rosengarten in the second round, but then we go without a offensive line addition until we get into the seventh round, where we pick up an already injured center. Now, I don't know if that made a lot of sense to you, but it did not make sense to me to have your GM say this is an historic draft and only pull out one major piece along that offensive line. But of course, we all had hope. We had hope that the guys that we already had on this team would kind of come into their own. A fourth year Ben Cleveland, a third year Daniel Falele, a second year guy in Jason Voorhees. But nevertheless, we haven't seen much of that. So we go into off-season workouts, and there's a lot of bloviating about how good Voorhees has been, and there was some talk about Ben Cleveland looking good at right guard, or Daniel Falele looking good at right guard, and so on and so forth. Who would start, and who's going to push each other, and who's going to be competitive at those positions. So we roll into the first week of preseason, and we look like booty. Let's just be honest. And so my perspective and a lot of people's perspectives in Ravens Nation was, hey, they got to jail. These are guys who are just getting their feet wet for real, in real life competition. And let's give them to the second week. We roll into the second week and we look like booty once again. You understand? We didn't look good. We didn't get a push. We ran 30 times for 70 yards. That's 2.3 yards, something like that per carry. What are we going to do with that? Yes, we went out and got Derrick Henry, which soothed a lot of Ravens fans' souls. But if we can't get any push, we can't create no holes for Derrick Henry. It doesn't matter who's going to be at running back. We're not going to do much in the run game or in the passing game. Okay, so I still chalked it up to inexperience and so on and so forth. But then a lot of criticism came out for Daniel Falele, that he really couldn't get out of his own way as it pertains to pulling and all those kind of things. And but the truth is, they should have expected that. See, good coaching would have said, "Hey, he can't play at the guard position in this style of offense. Why? He's 6'8", 6'9", 370 pounds. He's not going to be able to pull. That's why Falele has looked better at left tackle, which is what we saw in his first season when he got some spot duty when Ronnie Stanley was out. Okay? So it's no surprise. But the truth is that the Ravens are exposed because they banked on guys who were unproven and they're still unproven. You see, the truth is that if Ben Cleveland was the leading candidate to play the right guard position, then he must have been doing crap in practice because Daniel Falele was getting first team reps. You see, and so Roger Rosengarten has been up and down at right tackle, right? Jason Voorhees couldn't get anything going in his second game. Yeah, he's shown some flashes, but not enough to really be excited about what he's going to do at left guard. So you say, you know what? They got two live game actions against competition, week 3, right? And a lot of people were excited about the Baltimore Ravens competing against the Green Bay Packers in practice and right on schedule. What did we learn? That this offensive line is booty. Granted, Tyler Linderbaum is out. Granted, Ronnie Stanley, um, has not played in the preseason, but I'm pretty sure he was in competition against Green Bay. And what we heard was that Lamar Jackson was running for his life. Motion detected at front door. Go. And what we heard was that Lamar Jackson was running for his life. What we heard is that that defensive line was dominating the Baltimore Ravens offensive line. And then John Harbaugh come out with a bunch of coach speak talking about he liked 90% of what he saw, so on and so forth. Well, if 90% of what you saw was the Baltimore Ravens getting banged up by that defensive line, getting ran through by that defensive line, then dadgum. If you like 90% of that, then what did you hate? You see, the Baltimore Ravens have left this cupboard bare at the offensive line position. This is once again organization malpractice. The Baltimore Ravens were supposed to build this offensive line, not tear it all the way down and plug it in with guys who are unproven. And then the unfortunate part is Tyler Lindenbaum goes down with a neck injury of some sort. And I don't think he's going to be ready to go. Based on everything I've heard, he's not going to be ready to go week 1. In fact, if his injury comes back to be more serious, which I think that is more serious than they let on, he might not be ready to go for a while. And so this is not on Lamar Jackson. This is not on the coaching. This is on two people, EDC and John Harbaugh. because this was wrong place, wrong time to totally hit reset at three positions along that offensive line, especially in your interior offensive line, because that's where you get direct pressure. That's where pressure comes the quickest when a quarterback is trying to set up and deliver the ball. That's where pressure comes the quickest when you're trying to get a run play off. So we got 3 out of 3 weeks where the Baltimore Ravens line has looked like some crap. On Saturday, we play the same Green Bay defense that we just competed against in practice. In live game action, it's going to be telling. It's going to be real telling if we get some of the same results that we just heard about in practice. You see, one time I could give you, we can chalk it up to inexperience. 2 times, we could chalk it up to, hey, these guys got to find their groove. But 3 out of 3 weeks where they've looked like some crap, this is a trend. And the unfortunate part is, we're literally inside of 2 weeks before the season starts. So I hope you guys got some answers for me. What you guys think, man? What should they do? Who should be the starters? Right? Who who who's responsible? Right? And should they make some trades? They got 4 extra draft picks next year. We don't know where they'll be yet, but they got 4 extra draft picks. So we have some draft capital. Should we go out and make a few trades? Because of what we've seen so far, if we see that again tomorrow night, it spells trouble for this season. Let me know what you guys want me to know. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and we're out.